The discovery of life after death. A physicist's journey. Beyond a well-known physicist, who once held firm beliefs in the finality of death, found himself experiencing a life-altering event that would forever change his understanding of existence. After spending 8 minutes in the afterlife, he returned with groundbreaking revelations that would spark both curiosity and disbelief in the scientific community. Upon his return, the physicist whispered with a voice frail yet full of awe, "No, it's not the end. There is life beyond, but it is different. Much better." These words were more than just a statement. They were a glimpse into a reality no one could have anticipated. The event unfolded unexpectedly, with the physicist suddenly collapsing in the middle of a regular day. What followed would not only challenge his understanding of death, but also revolutionize the scientific exploration of the afterlife. The incident. The physicist, a leading engineer at the Impulse Design Bureau, experienced an unexpected health crisis. He had been working on a complex project related to advanced rocket systems when, out of nowhere, a severe coughing fit overwhelmed him. The fit caused him to collapse onto the sofa, where he lay motionless, his body showing no signs of life. His family initially assumed he was merely resting. However, his sister Natalia, who was a trained physician, quickly realized the seriousness of the situation. She approached him cautiously, tapping his shoulder and asking how he felt. When there was no response and she couldn't detect a pulse, Natalia immediately began life-saving measures. Her training kicked in as she performed CPR, fighting desperately for his life. For what felt like an eternity, she worked to revive him, battling the hopelessness that threatened to overwhelm her. After 8 long minutes, she felt a faint pulse. The physicist's body began to show signs of life, and he slowly started breathing on his own again. Natalia, though exhausted, was relieved to hear her brother's weak voice. His first words after coming back to life were surprising, even for a scientist like him. "No," he whispered again. "It's not the end. There is life beyond. But it is different. Much better." The knowledge that he had crossed over to the other side and returned was as profound as it was shocking. The experience of the afterlife. After regaining consciousness, the physicist began to describe what he had experienced during those 8 minutes in the afterlife. His detailed account was more than just a personal experience. It marked the first scientific exploration of the concept of life after death, based on his own observations. He spoke of a feeling of absolute peace, a sense of lightness that washed over him once he lost all awareness of his physical body. He had no sensation of pain or suffering. The world he entered was unlike anything he had ever encountered. It wasn't just an absence of life or darkness. It was vibrant, filled with energy, and exuded a profound sense of calm. As he recounted his journey, he described traveling through what he could only describe as a large glowing tube. The sensation was familiar to him, almost as if he had experienced it in a dream before. Unlike in typical dreams, where a person might feel confused or lost, he found a sense of direction and purpose in this strange realm. The tube felt like it stretched infinitely, yet he also felt a strange connection to everything around him. His thoughts seemed to guide his movement, and his consciousness expanded beyond his physical limitations. He realized that the environment he was experiencing was real. He could think and perceive freely without the constraints of time and space. Unlike Earth, where thoughts often feel fleeting and constrained, here his mind could absorb and process everything at once. The sensory experience was so powerful that it became almost impossible for him to distinguish between the past, present, and future. All events seemed to coexist in an eternal moment. He noticed that the very laws of physics, as he understood them, no longer applied. The rules of time and matter were different. In this otherworldly space, thoughts themselves could influence the environment. He visualized an old, broken television set from his apartment. In an instant, he could see it from all angles and knew the history of its creation, the source of the materials used to build it, and even the personal details of the worker who had assembled it. He knew everything about this television, including the reason for its malfunction. This ability to manipulate reality with his thoughts became clearer. He realized that what he was experiencing was not just a strange, isolated dream, but an entirely different realm where his consciousness was able to transcend the physical boundaries that once defined him. The more he explored, the more he felt the presence of an invisible being, a force of immense power that seemed to guide and protect him. The entity, though unseen, exuded an overwhelming sense of love and serenity. This being, he realized, had no limitations. It was everywhere and nowhere, filling the space with a deep sense of peace and understanding. The revelation: life after death. When he came back to life, he was a changed man. The experience had altered his very perception of reality. He had witnessed firsthand that life does not end with death. Instead, it transitions to another form of existence. But this new life was not the same as the one we know. It was more expansive, more fulfilling, and more interconnected. His detailed description of the afterlife provided a unique insight into a realm previously uncharted by science. It challenged everything he had once believed, particularly his stance as an atheist who had previously rejected the notion of life after death. Before this experience, he had always adhered strictly to the principles of scientific reasoning, relying on observable data and tangible evidence. The very idea of an afterlife seemed, to him, like a religious fantasy, something beyond the reach of rational thought. But after his near-death experience, the physicist began to see the world through a different lens. His understanding of reality had expanded to include dimensions that were not just scientifically unexplained, but profoundly transformative. The laws governing this new dimension seemed to be based on thought, intention, and interconnectedness, rather than the rigid rules of physics as he had known them. In the afterlife, everything was interconnected, and one's thoughts had the power to shape the world around them. Impact on science and society. The scientist's experience created a ripple effect in the scientific community. His findings were shared at an international conference, where they sparked intense debate and curiosity. Experts in physics, neuroscience, and philosophy all weighed in on the implications of his experience. Could it be that the human mind is capable of existing beyond the body? Was there truly a life after death? These were questions that many had pondered for centuries. But now there was a scientist who had not only experienced it, but had returned to tell the world about it. The revelations did not stop there. The physicist's experience led him to reconsider many of his previous beliefs about the universe. He began to understand that the human mind has a far greater capacity than he had ever imagined. With his newfound knowledge, he explored new possibilities for scientific research, focusing on how consciousness could transcend the physical world. He concluded that the human mind was capable of much more than simply processing information. It could interact with the universe in ways that were previously thought to be impossible. The physicist's new understanding of life, death, and consciousness sparked a revolution in the way people approach the questions of existence and the afterlife.